recycling sewage for at least 5 years. Out of 15 million gallons, 5 million every day comes from the sewage. They put it through 7 steps called DNP, then they mix it with water from Lake Arrowhead and Lake Kickapoo and put it down the line for your morning coffee. How long has India been recycling their sewage? 10 years, 20?
I think they have been recycling it, but as I mentioned, I don't know the exact numbers, but I know in the big cities, the recycling part is probably not even 10%. And you saw the figures for just one city, Bangalore, that if they recycle even half of their sewage, you know, they can have plenty of water. But the first of all, establishing the recycling plants and then having the infrastructure, because you got to have drains that take this. And a lot of even the big cities, they don't even have good drainage systems. So it's a lot more complicated. But you're absolutely right. The sewage treatment, if that's well managed, that alone can go a long way. Also, just as we talked about, just how we use it, what kind of incentives we give to people. And if you have no incentive to save water, especially if you are a farmer, but farmers, see, we have only about 2% of the people involved in agriculture in the US, and it's still all the farm states control, I don't know, 200 electoral votes. India is the same way, where right now 30 to 40% of the population is involved directly in agriculture, so there are a lot of votes there. So if you take away some of my free electricity, it's not an easy thing. So a lot of this is, as I said, it's a political and economic and legal issue, not so much as just technology issue.
Now, it's the source, the supply of water for like the Ganges and the Brahmaputra. What proportion of that is rainfall, and what portion of that is glacial melt? And I'm asking that because glaciers are in retreat all over the world.
Right.
And when is that going to kick in and be significant?
Yeah, well, I don't know the exact numbers, but Ganges, as you saw in the map, we can go back. I mean, it starts out in headwaters, but then throughout, it is collecting, rainwater and other surface flows. But one of the problems with these rivers is, the Ganges especially, because that's a holy river, people go, bathe in it, pray in it, and also burn, cremations take place. It's extremely, extremely polluted. And there was a multi-billion-dollar proposal to clean the Prime Minister, his own constituencies in the holy city of Varanasi. And he pledged that they're going to clean. So it's not so much how much is coming, but a lot of it is just trying to clean up the river, and that not much has happened. But the rivers in the southern, they come from just the central plateau area, and then so that's mostly from surface flows.
Are individual households starting to harvest rainwater now?
As far as I know, again, what they do is in the cities, there are, if you go travel around, you'll see little water tanks, but those are mostly for pressure. So they will have, like in our own house, my mother's house, we had a municipal tap which supplied water. In our city, it wasn't too bad. We would get water probably 18, 20 hours a day, but in Delhi, as I said, even in fairly upscale, house, they call them colonies, but these are fairly upscale areas where water may be there maybe 10 hours a day. So they would have, but rainwater harvesting in large cities is probably very, very uncommon. In the villages, again, they don't harvest. They would, for drinking water, they would go to a hand pump, or they would go to a well, but that's about all they're doing.
So people don't have their own systems or anything?
I think if it is there, it would be on a very, very low side. Yeah, hi, Sean.
I'm from India, So I have to ask you a question. I think it's a fine talk. I really enjoyed it. I do have a question on one of your statements in the abstract.
Oh,
I said the climate change weakened the monsoon and thereby shortened the water supply, something like that. During the last 15 years or so, there has been an increased attribution of meteorological phenomena in India, like monsoon and cyclones, to climate change. I was looking for data to support that. If you take the first issue, the climate change weakened the monsoon, thereby depletes the water supply. That's one set of arguments. The other set is the same climate change increased the frequency of cyclones in the Bay of Bengal, thereby increase the water supply. So we have two competing phenomena. My question is, are there any studies done quantitatively? How much climate change depleted the water supply on an annual basis? How much climate change increased the water supply on an annual basis? What is the final account?
I don't know. Simple answer is I don't know if there is a final account. But from those maps that you was showing earlier about where the water needs are, so if you have a cyclone and you have a lot of water, but if all the rain is falling on Bangladesh and Assam, that's not going to help the people in Punjab. And I think so it becomes the distribution. And so you may be right. We are having actually, Kerala had big floods just a few months ago. But the biggest drop in the water table is happening in the north and northwest. So it may be part of that. Jed is here, so climate change, he's going to start saying there's no such climate change and it's all a hoax. But the bottom line is, if you cut down trees, you got a problem. You have cities growing up and you concrete all over, you got a problem. So a lot of that is just related to that. But you are right, it could be causing more water in one area. And I mean, like in our own country, we have fires burning on one coast and hurricanes coming on the other coast. And that's happening last 3 years in a row. And how long can we afford it?
Just one question. So you mentioned the water policy of 2012. Do you know if that's just a bland statement, or is there actually some teeth to the regulations or measures that you spoke of to implement them?
Well, all I know is, again, let's say 2012 policy was accepted at the ministerial level. Now, I don't know of all the things that they proposed. If you read, it's a pretty, I read through part of it. It's a very bland policy level statement. I mean, simple thing, there was one agency that managed the surface water and one agency that managed the groundwater until somebody said, well, those two should be connected somehow. So you had the Central Resources Water Board and the Groundwater Control Board. But you have, in India, you have a federal system, so a lot of the things are done at the state level and then at the district level. So the policy is there, but individual items within that, I couldn't tell you how much of that is actually being done right now.
Okay, well, I'm sure Naresh would stay around if anyone has any other questions they would like to ask him. And of course, we have our Ammonites, care of Galen. So thank you very much, Naresh.